Have you ever really thought about the sound of the ocean? You know, the crashing waves, the seagulls. But beneath all that, there's another sound, a silent one. It's a scream for help from the biggest, most important ecosystem on our entire planet. And today, we're going to listen in. Because that's really the question we've got to ask ourselves, right? The oceans, they drive our climate, they make the oxygen we breathe, they feed billions of people. So what happens when that life support system starts to break down?
So what are we actually talking about here? At its very core, the problem is pretty simple. We're putting stuff into the ocean that just doesn't belong there. From the trash you can see to the chemicals you can't, these things are literally poisoning our planet's blue heart.
All right, let's get into it. Let's break down what's causing this silent scream and why it needs our attention like yesterday.
You see, this isn't just a problem for fish or coral reefs. Look at this. It's a domino effect, really. It starts with the marine life, sure, but then it contaminates the very food that ends up on our plates. It messes with huge industries that people rely on to make a living, and yep, it comes right back around to us, affecting our own health.
So when you look at the main culprits, it's a pretty nasty mix. You've got chemical waste, oil spills, even noise and light pollution. But as you can see, one of these is screaming way louder than the others. Look at that massive piece of the pie. Plastic.
So yeah, let's zoom in on that plastic threat. Because its story is, well, it's a lot more complicated, and frankly, a lot scarier than just the trash we see floating on the surface.
Just try to wrap your head around that number. Over 8 million tons every single year. That's basically like dumping a full garbage truck of plastic into the ocean every single minute. And the most terrifying part? That plastic never, ever really goes away. It just breaks down. A bottle, a bag, whatever. It gets baked by the sun, smashed by the waves, and it shatters into tinier and tinier pieces. These are called microplastics, and they are the truly invisible, insidious part of this whole threat. And here's where it gets really mind-blowing, the sheer scale of this problem. These tiny bits of plastic are so widespread, they've been found in the most remote places you can imagine, like deep in the Arctic ice. And yep, they've been found inside us, carried up the food chain from the smallest plankton to fish and right onto our dinner plates. And when all that visible plastic gets together, it creates something horrifying, a floating continent of our own garbage. We're talking about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, an area they say is now 3 times the size of France. It's not a solid island, just a disgusting, toxic soup of trash that's trapping and killing wildlife. But plastic, as awful as it is only one piece of the puzzle. There are other huge forces at work here, things that are changing the very chemistry of the ocean and just making everything worse.
You know all that carbon dioxide we pump into the atmosphere? Well, the ocean soaks up a ton of it. And that triggers a chemical reaction that makes the water more acidic. For creatures like coral or oysters that build shells to survive, it's like trying to build a house out of chalk in the middle of a rainstorm. Their homes literally dissolve around them.
On top of that, global temperatures are rising, which means the ocean is warming up. And when the water gets too hot, corals get stressed out, and they kick out the little algae that live with them and give them their food and color. That's called coral bleaching. What you're seeing on the right, that's not just a color change. That is an entire ecosystem starving to death.
So, a bleached reef somewhere in the ocean, how does that actually affect us here on land? It's time to connect the dots. Let's follow the chain from the reefs straight to our dinner plates. It's a direct line of consequences. When fish populations crash, the food security for billions of people is at risk. When those fish are full of microplastics and metals, so are we. When coastal ecosystems like coral reefs disappear, we lose our best natural defenses against big storms. And when the ocean's beauty fades, the economies that depend on it, they fade too. Okay, I know, this all sounds incredibly grim, but the ocean's silent scream isn't just a cry of pain, it is a call to action. And the good news is, we actually know how to answer it. The very first thing we have to do is bust this myth of helplessness. It is so easy to feel like one person can't possibly make a difference, but that's just not true. Your actions, my actions, multiplied by millions of people doing the same thing, that creates a tidal wave of change. The second myth we gotta ditch is this idea that our trash just goes away. It doesn't. Every single piece of plastic ever made still exists somewhere on this planet, and understanding that it's permanent is the key to understanding why we have to stop it at the source. Now, on a global scale, we need big, coordinated moves.
We're talking about strong international treaties to cut down on plastics, setting ambitious goals to protect huge parts of the ocean, and a real, serious commitment to cutting carbon emissions and investing in new, smarter technology. And change becomes really tangible at the community level. Things like beach cleanups, good recycling programs, and local rules that reduce single-use plastics. They all make a real, measurable difference. Even something as simple as a rain garden can help filter out junk before it ever gets to the sea.
And this brings it all right back to you. Your individual power is immense. Every time you choose a reusable bottle, or you say no thanks to a plastic straw, or you just try to save a little energy at home, you are casting a vote for a healthier planet. These are the small daily ripples that build into that tidal wave of change we were talking about.
So the question isn't whether the ocean is in trouble. It is. The scream is loud and clear. The only question left is this. Now that we've heard it, what are you going to do about it?